Okay, I'm going to start out with my gesture like I always do. I'm going to do the, as much as I can get on the page, and then I'm going to come back to the head, okay? Okay, so here's our head, here's our shoulders, here's a suggestion of the neck. It's utterly in the wrong place. Here's that long line coming down to the groin. Suggestion of the leg. I lost this area in here. This is where my gesture, I didn't follow through on my gesture, okay? So I'm going to come back in and pick that up and then go to the head, okay? This paper's torn?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not ideal. It should be cut right there. Okay, so to come over here, I'm going to come back into my gesture and then swing back here. If I come here, I'm trying to draw what I see up there rather than getting the feeling of it and gesturing it. Okay, so see now how I've related better to my page? And still, I mean, we don't really know exactly what this is. I know what it is because I felt it. It was that arm coming down, terminating in the hand, holding onto the foot. Okay, so to get that head on there, let's come back and figure out where we're going to place it. I'm actually going to lower it because she has such a high knot going on up there. And also when I was drawing, it's a lot for me to reach up this high to try to draw something for any extended length of time. This would be the time to lower it so that it's more comfortable. There's the orbit. Here's the front, the left side of the neck. And then you'll notice when I come from this side, I don't lift off the page, I come over to this side. Ariadne, I would suggest not really taking notes right now and just watching, and then taking notes afterward. I think it might help. Okay, so you've got that. We've got the left side. I swing up and feel where that right side is. The shoulders, the left shoulder cuts through the chin. The right shoulder slopes down. The clavicle. And come down into the arm and back into the torso. So you can see by this, we're already beginning to set up a dimensional relationship in our form. What really gives it that? Kathy?
The body lines, the round going around the head. And
some of that does.
The neck and the clavicle.
It's the clavicle mostly. It creates the shoulder girdle, and it places this behind this. And it begins to give us a plateau up here from which the neck springs. Okay, so Ariadne, to block in the head, to connect it to the body, you've got to look at what connects it to the body, and it's the neck, and you need to understand the neck. So that's why I went to this degree here. Okay, so I'm just going to put this value change right down in here. Now, when I look at her head, what I'm really seeing is the skull. I'm not really seeing that top knot that she's got. I'm not really seeing her hair so much. What you're going to find me doing is I'm going to be drawing the skull first. And when I say the skull, it's going to be the top of her head, right where the crown is. The orbit, which runs through the eyes, it's right through here. Got a little bit here on the nose. You see how I'm moving around the face and making corrections as I see them? One of the corrections I made just now was getting that profile edge of the face, without really having to come into too much detail. And I didn't really come over here and define this. I'm going to find this line by working my way through the form. So one of the things that you can look at also that I'm seeing here is there's a side plane to the head. What I see from where I'm standing is the front plane and the side plane.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You're just trying to get proportions right now. You're not trying to get it to look like it, right?
No, I'm not trying to get it to look like her at all. If it ends up looking like her, that's great. But right now, we're just talking about the general construction of a head.
How did you know where to put the organ plane of the eyes?
Well, I kind of figured out where the shoulders were in relation to the head. Where this shoulder intersects the head, if I throw a horizontal line, it goes through the chin. So that helped me kind of figure out, and I say kind of figure out because I don't know where anything really is going to be until I get it arranged up there, and that means putting in lines and then playing with them, toying with them to move them around. But this gives me a general idea about this much of the chin hangs below the shoulder line. So if that's there, then the mouth is here, then the base of the nose is probably right in here, which would put the eyes somewhere right up in here. And there's a fair amount of forehead that takes me up to the hairline. So I'm glad you asked that question. I shortened the nose because of it. I'm going to lighten that just a little bit.
What's interesting to me is that you can't tell whether it's a man or a woman yet.
I know. It's a whole spectrum I was reading about today. Gender identity. I mean, it's no longer binary. It's a spectrum of sexuality based on, like, partially your testosterone levels. Yeah. So they should wear purple hats. Let's see. Let me get this right in here. If that's there, then the corner of the eye is really right there. Okay, so I'm slowing down a little bit. If you look at her, you can see there's a highlight right in here. Can you see that? It's very subtle. It's the brow ridge. Next to that highlight, it's a little bit darker right here. That's the temple. That's part of the turning line to the side of the head. And that turning line pretty much follows down through the cheekbone to we've got the nasolabial fold right here. And then this is called the pillars of the mouth, this little line right here. So that turning line really kind of runs down, right about down through here. It's essentially the shape that you'd see if she were to slip a mask on over her face. The front of the face is rather mask-like in its appearance. I don't know if that's real clear to you, but you might start witnessing it in your work over time, that it almost looks like there's a mask placed in front of the head in your drawings.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't know, Mary. I'll figure it out and tell you. Okay, so I'm not getting good likeness here. I'm kind of spending a lot of time working on this. But you can see right here we have the front of the head, and then this is the back of the skull, top of the skull, and the hair kind of travels up in through here and has that movement on it up in there. So if this is here, it's too dark. I'm going to lighten this up now.
Now that lightness you were talking about is just right above the eyebrow? Is that what you were talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah, it's right here. And there's a muscle that wraps over the bone right in through there, and sometimes that muscle's really thick, and you can see it more on men. There's a very strong roll around the eyebrows and back to the eyes. So this is here. This is like, this charcoal's kind of curved. It's a little work, little extra work. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, if you want somebody to look really old, you really emphasize those lines I just put in there. And beginners often do. They see, you know, a shadow or what looks like a shadow, a dark space on the face, and they just go in and, you know, crank a really dark line on there. That only happens when you get older, that it's that dark. When you're younger, it's smoothed out. I mean, we've all seen that. So I'm just trying to lighten some of these values just a little bit, but all of these are hallmarks on almost any face. Okay, so if we've got, let's see, this is here, the hairline's about right here. I don't want to overlook that. Then that ear is about right in here, and that's an important function because the jawline comes up right to the ear. You can't always see it. Sometimes it's described by light, sometimes by something dark. But that jawline comes up and joins the ear right at the ear canal if you look at a skull. Okay, so then if this is here, then that, now see how I've lost all of the neck in here, but I've got all my ghost imaging? I can come right back to it. I like to leave my hand, on the page. It always picks up charcoal, but it gives me a lot more control over my charcoal that's in my hand. If I try to approach it like I'm holding a pencil and draw, I can't control my line as much. If I have the support of my hand, I can just let the weight of the charcoal travel around and make my marks. But that's why all of this happens. But you can see what we need is still here. We just have to come back in and reestablish it. Okay, so now I'm starting to put a little bit of the hair in. She's got some strong lines right up in through here, which are a real important part of her likeness. I've traveled more into likeness than I intended, but basically when you look at the form, you're always looking to see where values shift. Wherever the value shifts, the plane turns. It turns in one direction or another. So like if you look at a head as a block like that, this is the turning line right here. This is the turning line I've created right in through, or drawn right in through here. She's got it on her. This is the turning line right here, because it's where the plane changes from receiving light to not receiving light. Okay, so are you all right there, Jennifer? Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to come back in and maybe not. Maybe I'll come right up here. And one thing that I want to talk to you all about, I was talking to Sydney about it earlier today, is when you no longer need a line, go ahead and take it out. But don't take it out until you've corrected it, okay? So see how that kind of clears up what's really going on over here? Like when I look at her, I notice her hair is very close to the side of her head from where I'm standing. And then it travels up here into this little thing winging up in there. Probably not quite. Well, maybe it is kind of like that. Okay. So, and just for your information, usually along the hairline, it's a little bit of a turn of plane. It's a little bit grayer right along that edge. Okay, so that gets the head on there. I didn't mean to put that on there.
But normally you wouldn't put that much detail until you had your whole body in there.
No, but she wanted, Ariadne wanted to have a demo on constructing the head. So now the next step to that is to understand the neck a little bit. So one of the things I look at is where does this side of the neck intersect her head? And when I throw a plumb line up, it intersects right underneath this part of this eye. So that tells me I need to move it over just a little bit. What's the angle of it? That's the angle of it. Okay? So when I squint and look at her neck, if I only look at her neck from about here down to the pit, it's all darker. And that makes sense because it's overhung by the jaw. The jaw is casting a shadow. And it's also turning back away from the light, so it's darker.
That's another plane.
Huh?
So you consider that another plane?
Yeah, because if you look at the neck, if you were to just look at the neck as a column, I'm getting all my geometry worked in here. So if I want to make this column turn, see how it starts to turn? Now if I want to make it round, I have a little bit of a lighter value right through here as it starts to turn. Okay, so that's just what we see right here. Okay. There are a lot of details. We can go into the neck at some point. We don't have to do it today unless y'all want to. But essentially what happens is when people in the beginning first look at that neck, they see all kinds of values in there. And there are all kinds of values in there. Your job is to simplify it. So what I do is I squint and look at her and I ask myself, is this shape that I see, is this the shape that I see? Is this the value I see in relation to the other values I have? And right now it works okay. Now once I've got that set up, I can come in here and I can lighten passages of it if I want to. But what I need to remember is that this whole passage has to stay back in space and actually turn away from me. And it has to be simple enough that I don't really look at it, but I know there's a good neck there supporting the head. If you make this too complex, we won't look at the other parts of the body. We'll just be looking in here, and it won't be in harmony with the rest of the drawing. So we have that, and I'm going to come up and just get this clavicle right in here. And here's the other one. And Jennifer's a good model for that. She's got a really clear clavicle. Okay, so does that give it to you? Okay.